Let's talk about setting up automations, because honestly, there's nothing more satisfying than taking a task you have to do every single day, week, month, whatever, and putting it on autopilot. Whether you are a small business owner, a content creator, or just someone who does a lot of tasks on their computer, Zapier probably has an automation that will just save you a ton of time. And today I'm going to show you how to set it up. This video is sponsored by Sunsama, but we will talk about them in just a little bit. So first up, why Zapier? Zapier is a leader in the autopilot and automations industry, and they have literally thousands of different integrations that connect with their platform. It makes it really easy to build out workflows visually and not have to know any coding or any kind of special skills to be able to build some automations that will work within the apps that you're already using. Zapier also has a very robust free tier. There are some premium versions of the platform that are well worth investing in, especially if you use the premium apps like Shopify, for example. But there is so much that you can do on the free version that's where we're going to start. And then I'll talk about some of the reasons you may want to upgrade in the future. The first tier only costs $30 a month, which might seem like a lot, but if that tier can save you 3 hours of work, even at $10 an hour, you are saving money. So if you're not familiar with any kind of automation, Zapier basically works with triggers and actions. So first up, you have a trigger, something that starts the process. This could be something like getting an email in and you create a Google task out of it. So let's say that we have this email from Sunsama, and let's say I want to follow up with this and look into it later. So I'm going to add this to my Google Tasks and maybe set it for a tomorrow due date. Now I have like 6 different email accounts just because of my work. So having all of my tasks go into one task manager would be really beneficial. But unfortunately, tools like Sunsama don't connect natively with Google Tasks. However, they now have a Zapier integration that will allow me to connect virtually any app that they don't already connect with and hook it into my daily planning process. So the trigger would be the new creation of a Google task. Then what we're going to do is tell Zapier what we want that action to be. So let's actually build this out in Zapier so you can see what this would look like from an actual workflow perspective. If you don't already have an account with Zapier, like I said, it is free to sign up. So go ahead and set up your account. And then once you are signed in, you will be able to actually create what they're calling zaps. This is the actual automation process. So in order to do this, you can actually use their AI beta where you can basically type what you want to do, and their AI tool will help you figure out what to build into this workflow. This is really helpful for new users who maybe don't quite know what they want, but you are trying to figure it out. So let's use this and we'll see what it comes up with for us. So I'm going to keep this simple and just say I want new Google Tasks to get sent to Sunsama. And I'm going to hit go, and AI will figure out what apps I need to connect and how this workflow should be laid out. Okay, so we can see that it pulled the 2 apps. We have a new task, Google Tasks, creates a new task in Sunsama. So let's try this and see what it gives us. So Copilot on the left side will show us kind of what they did, and we can also chat with Copilot to make adjustments within the AI version. Or on the right side, we can actually use the Zapier interface to connect everything. So I'm going to use the right side of this just because everything can vary with AI, so I want to show you the actual interface that you'd likely be using. First up, we need to add a Google account. So I do have one in here, but we're going to connect a new one. And then once we have added our account, we can also change the trigger event. Here you can see if you complete a task, this could be done, create a new task list. We just want a new task added will be the trigger, but there are different triggers for different apps, so it's definitely worth looking at all your options. We'll hit continue and go to the configure settings. So this is where we need to choose the task list that we're going to pull from. So if we go back into our Gmail account, we can see that this task was added to personal. So maybe I use this with a team and I just want the personal tasks pulled in. I'm going to choose that list. And then it'll also ask if we want to include assigned tasks. So let's say this task may be assigned to someone else or maybe assigned to myself. Regardless, I do want it to pull it into my Sunsama account, so I'm going to hit true. And then we'll hit continue and we will test the trigger. So this will pull some example data from your account and show you what the options may be. This also helps you configure the next step, which I'll show you right now. So next up, we have the Sunsama portion of this. So you'll need to connect your Sunsama account, which I have already done. And then this will allow us to create an action event. For Sunsama, we can create this new task. Then under the configure settings, we have a few different options here. The title of the task can be whatever you want it to be. You could type in something generic for every single time, such as Google Task or whatever. But we can also use mapping. So if I click on this little plus icon, we can see all of the data that we can pull from our Google Tasks. So for example, the title of the task could be the same in Sunsama as it is in Google, which is what I'm going to use. The start date, again, we can map this. I'm going to choose my due date here. What channel we want this added to can be mapped, or it can just be a generic channel. We could also leave this blank if we want to add this in ourselves once the task is added. However, since this is pulling from my personal Google Task list, I'm going to add it to my personal channel in Sunsama. You can also choose if you want it added to your backlog. So maybe you want all of the tasks to come in, but you don't want them automatically added into your daily plan. You can add it to your backlog instead, so that way you can just see all these tasks coming in and you can move them to the due dates where appropriate. I think this is a really helpful feature if you are someone that maybe doesn't want all your tasks added to this automatically. And then in our notes section, we can add in even more metadata. So maybe I'll include the link to the actual email that I'm referencing so I have quick access to that. And then I'll also add the web view link to the actual task itself so that I can verify any information, or if I'm missing any details, I can look in there. I also want my description in here. So I want to be able to see any notes I may have written in Google Tasks to show up in Sunsama. We also have a URL field, so I'm going to add the link. And for plan time, I'm just going to leave that blank and let Sunsama AI figure that out. So let's hit continue, and now we'll be able to test the step. We can see what information is meant to be pulled in, so I'm going to hit test, and it'll take just a moment to run this. And as you can see on the left side, the AI is giving updates of what's happening in just plain language, so even if you're a little confused about this, you can see it on the other end. So now we can see that the task was sent to Sunsama, and it took 0 seconds to send, and this is the data that we got out of it. We should be able to go into our backlog here and see our task, which is right here. So we can see it. We have a quick link to our email that it is referencing. We have a link to the task that it came from, and then we have the description text that came from the task. So I'm going to hit publish now, and then we're going to test this out further and see how quickly this will all sync. And let's add a new task that maybe says pick up groceries. Now, when we click off of that task, the task is now created. So Zapier should be able to read that this is a new task, and that will trigger the action of adding this to Sunsama. Zapier has different sync times depending on what account you're on and also how you have it set up. So we can check this. Within the settings, we can change the polling interval. This is how often Zapier should check for new data. So let's open it up and see how long this actually takes. Okay, and after another 30 seconds or so, back in Sunsama, I can see pick up groceries has been added. But there's a problem. I don't see the grocery list from the notes within Zapier, so I must have connected that or mapped that incorrectly. So let's go back in and see if we can figure this out. Once I'm in Zapier, I can click Edit Zap, and that will reopen the editor for me to enter information. I should be able to instead add the notes from the task. We can see here it says no data. This is because it was pulling from my example task, which didn't have any notes entered. If I hit continue and publish, we can also choose a new version name. This allows you to track what changes you may have made over time so that you know for your reference if something breaks or something stops working, how to fix it. So here I'm just going to type Notes Edition. To test that this is working properly now, I'm going to add another task and we're going to call it Test. And I'm going to add details called Notes Go Here. And now if I open it in Sunsama, right away we see that the test has been added, and we can see Notes Go Here has been added to the details. Okay, so that is a super basic rundown of how a basic Zap works. There are a ton of different things that you can do within Zapier, such as creating tables, databases, interfaces. You can basically build an entire app within Zapier, which is amazing. But if you're new to this, I would honestly just start with playing with Zaps themselves and figuring out what you can automate. If we go into my Zaps here, you can see I have a very long list of Zaps that I have created and used in various conditions in the past. Let's open up another example here that a pro account might use. So this one, for example, is taking a new YouTube video. So anytime I post a new video to my channel, I am delaying this for 1 day, and then I create a task in Sunsama to review my analytics. This extra step right here is what makes having a premium account worth it, in my opinion. When you have multiple steps in a Zap, you have to have a pro account to be able to do that. There are some features that really only work with a premium account, such as this delay setting. Between any of our actions and triggers, we can add additional steps. And Zapier has some that are actually built into their platform, such as filtering. So maybe you want Google Tasks pulled in, but you only want them pulled in if they have certain terms in them, or if they have a specific tag or a specific color. You can filter those before the action actually happens. You can also reformat things. So maybe you get paid often in euros, but you need to convert things into US dollars. Being able to format an order from euros to US dollars before it goes into your spreadsheet or your bookkeeping system is very beneficial. You can also create true and false paths. So it'll check for a certain condition and then take action one way or another, depending on what that condition is. I use something like this for my shop so that if someone buys a certain version of one of my courses, they go down one path, and if they buy another version, then they go down a different path. I need different automations for those two things. So instead of forming two completely separate Zaps, I can have it live all in one workflow, which makes it really easy to update and also for me to turn on that Zap as needed. We also have the delay, which we just talked about. You can delay these as long as you need. And you can also include webhooks and coding. So as you get more comfortable with Zapier, or if you have a background in development, you can do a lot with this stuff. There are over 7,000 different apps and tools that can be connected to Zapier. Basically, overall, Zapier just has a ton of integrations that can really streamline your workflow. And now let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, Sunsama. Sunsama is an all-in-one planning tool. It connects a ton of different apps with native integrations such as Notion, Slack, Toggl, Asana, Jira, Trello, Google Calendar, Todoist, emails, all of the things that you probably use on a daily basis connect directly into Sunsama and allow you to plan your day in a really intentional and organized way. I have a bunch of videos about Sunsama that I will link down below. I've been using them for years and I use them every single day. While Sunsama has a ton of great native integrations, they are still missing some ones that I use in my daily workflow, as they probably are missing some that you use. So their workaround for that was Zapier. There are limitations to every app, and Zapier is, of course, included in that. There are times where the delayed sync time can maybe be a little bit of an issue, and there are some integrations like Shopify that require a Zapier paid plan. So if you're paying for both, I understand that that can be a lot of money. But for someone who's a small business owner, this makes a ton of sense. It saves me so much time in my day, and it just makes it so much more efficient for me to get my work done. And although Sunsama is a sponsor for this video, there are, of course, limitations on their side too. They only currently allow for Sunsama to be an action, meaning that you cannot use their tasks as triggers just yet. However, I know that Sunsama has rolled out new features virtually every single month since I've been using them for the last 3 years, and so I'm pretty confident that they will continue to roll out amazing features that still make this well worth using. If you've never used Sunsama before, I have a link down below for a free trial. They give you 7 days, no credit card required, to be able to try it out. And I also have a video telling you exactly how to get started. So check those out if you're curious. And as for Zapier, I have a few templates linked down below so that you can integrate those directly into your workflow, or you can just play with those and see how they might work for you. And check out this next video. I think you might like it.